the whispers of the shayateen. Oh Lord, have mercy on our souls. Stay away from the major sins. Ignore the whispers of the shayateen. Oh Lord, have mercy on our souls. Oh Lord, have mercy on our souls. Stay away from the major sins. Ignore the whispers. Oh Lord, have mercy on us. Have mercy on us all.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode of 26 Ways to Be a Good Muslim Parent. We're exploring some of the ways from the Sunnah. Some of them perhaps you will know, some of them perhaps you won't, in order to make you a more effective Muslim parent, in order to get more out of the investment of time and money and effort that you place in your children, and ultimately to reap the rewards of having pious children by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal in this life, in the grave, and indeed on the Day of Judgment, insha'Allah ta'ala. This episode is all about treating your own parents well, being good to your parents. Now a person might say, Muhammad Tim, you are here to tell us how to be good parents ourselves. So why spend an episode talking about how to be good children to our own parents? The reason for this is that there is a principle in Islam, and this principle is a general principle that applies to many, many things. And that is the principle in Islam of al-jaza'u min jinsi al-amal. Al-jaza'u min jinsi al-amal. That you are rewarded with the same kind of action, or in the same vein or the same area as the action that you have carried out. And so, if you give sadaqah, you are rewarded with wealth. If you show kindness, you are rewarded with others showing kindness to you. And most importantly for us, if you are a good child to your own parents, then insha'Allah, Allah Azza wa Jal will reward you by making your own children good children to you, making you a more effective Muslim parent. And the evidence for this is found in Surah Al-Isra, in the 17th surah of the Quran, in ayah number 23 and 24, in which Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ وَقُل رَّبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Allah Azza wa Jal said, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none but He. Your Lord has decreed that you worship nobody but Him. And this is the most important command in the religion of Islam. And then Allah Azza wa Jal takes that most important command in the religion of Al-Islam and makes it and follows it with a very important command. And that command, where you can see its importance because it's mentioned next to something which is so important. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And be good to your parents. And ihsan is about being good to your parents. Ihsan from ahsana yuhsinu, to be good towards somebody, to show somebody good. And in general, it covers all of the different ways that you can be good to your parents. But more than that, it carries a meaning of perfection, a meaning of striving to be the best you can be, the best child that you can be to your parents. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. If one of them or both of them reach old age, فَلَا تَقُل لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Don't say to them as little as uff. Uff is the smallest of words that you can say to your parents in opposition to what they say, or in, let's say, to rebuke them. The smallest word you can use to rebuke anyone is uff, like saying tutting, like when someone goes and tuts. The smallest thing you can do, you're not allowed to do it. Don't even say to them uff, not uff, and not something that is more than uff. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. And don't repel them, don't push them away. How many people push their parents away? Especially when their parents reach old age. You know, then it becomes difficult. You have to pay for things for them. You sometimes have to help them clean themselves. You sometimes have to look after them. They reach old age. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Don't push them away. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And say to them a noble word, a beautiful word. When you speak with them, speak to them in a loving and beautiful way. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. And lower to them the wing of mercy. Show them the mercy. Show them the generosity in your character. Show them the kindness and the love that you have for them. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا. And say, my Lord, have mercy on them. كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. As they both raised me when I was small. And in this there is an evidence, رَبَّيَانِي, as they both of them raised me when I was small. As both of them raised me when I was small. And that's an evidence that raising up your children is not the job of the father or the mother. كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي, as they both, the two of them raised me up when I was small. And so this ayah contains a beautiful summary of how to be good to your parents. But in reverse, it also shows what you should expect from your children towards you. You should expect that they will not say to you uff, or anything more than uff, not even tut at you, not even say the smallest words of criticism. You can expect that they should not repel you and push you away. You should expect that they would speak to you in a noble and respectful way. You should expect that they would be merciful and kind towards you, as you were merciful and kind towards them when they were young. And you should expect them to make dua for you and say, رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. My Lord, have mercy on them as they looked after me when I was small. They brought me up when I was small. But when should you expect these things to happen? When would you expect your children to learn not to say uff to you? How would you instill in your children them to be generous towards you, to speak words of respect and to be noble towards you? How would you instill in your children the character of lowering the wing of mercy? How do you teach your children to make dua for you? Quite simply, by you doing it for your own parents. Because this has a twofold effect. The first thing that it does is it brings about al-jaza, the reward, min jins al-amal. So the reward comes back to you. As you were good to them, so they will be good to you. كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ. As you treat others, so you will be treated. So as you treat your parents, so your children will treat you. And the other thing is that your children learn from you. Even as very small children, they observe you. They have a look at you and they observe you. How are you with your parents? And if they see from you that this is how you are with your parents, then insha'Allah ta'ala, a great deal of difficulty over the way you teach them and how you instill this character in them is actually becomes very, very easy. Because you're giving them a role model. Just like I am with my parents, so I also want you to be with me. And likewise, children will see things the other way. If you're not like that with your parents, if you're distant from your parents, if you repel your parents, if you speak badly of your parents, you backbite your parents, or if you treat your parents in an incorrect way or you speak to them rudely, so your children are watching and learning and thinking, well, that's what my role model does for his parents. Then maybe this is how I'm going to be for mine. And even though you tell them, you might tell them, don't do it like this, don't be like this. Children will do what they see you doing. And this is a fundamental theme of this series. Children will do what they see you doing. If you start doing good deeds, so inshallah your children will do good deeds. If you treat your own parents well, so inshallah your children will treat you well as you would like to be treated. And of course it implements that wonderful Islamic principle, as you treat others, so you yourself will be treated. And this is, I think, something that we need to very much bear in mind. And again, maybe one of those things that people perhaps don't think about as much as they should. And perhaps we focus again on what do I teach them, what do I say to them, what do I talk to them about, but perhaps sometimes we don't concentrate on how we behave towards our own parents. And we're going to explore this topic with some practical examples and real-world case studies, insha'Allah ta'ala, after the break. And until then, I leave you in the care of Allah, and we will speak soon, insha'Allah, after the break. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Stay away from the major sins. Ignore the whispers of the shaitan.
Let's come under the shade of the scholars.
So the issue is a problem of knowledge.
Asim Al-Hakim.
Why do people do bid'ah?
Imam Malik said, whoever claims there is a good innovation in the deen,
Salim Al-Amri.
he is accusing that Prophet Muhammad did not convey the message.
Dr. Mamdouh Muhammad.
If you know that the Prophet ﷺ did something and I do something else, you have to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Don't follow me.
Abdul Rahim McCarthy.
But if each one believes his goal is to please Allah, to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Abdul Rahim Green.
I think this really is to do with your internal state.
Where does the Quran and Sunnah point to?
Muhammad Al-Sharif.
We have to follow what Allah and His Messenger said.
Let's imbibe from these scholars the fruitful solutions for the problems of the world.
Which one we would take and which one we would leave?
Question to every Muslim,
In the shade of the scholars. Every Sunday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. and repeat telecast at 5:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
Indeed, my prayers, my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah, sustainer of the world.
A dynamic.
I challenge any human being to point out a single fundamental of Islam
In youthful quest.
Which is against humanity as a whole.
Iconic, inspiring, encouraging.
Don't judge Islam based on the following.
Farik Naik.
Judge Islam based on the authentic sources, that's the glorious Quran and the authentic Hadith.
Son of the world-famous orator on Islam and comparative religion, Dr. Zakir Naik.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an opportunity to do a proper job and to earn a proper reward.
A star above par in Teens Star. Next on Peace TV.
Stay away from the major sins. Ignore the whispers of the shaitan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to this second part of our 5th episode, 26 ways to be a good Muslim parent, and we're dealing with treating your own parents well. We said that this has multiple rewards, insha'Allah ta'ala. From those are the famous Islamic principle, al-jaza'u min jins al-amal. You are rewarded with the like of which you have done. You are rewarded with the same kind of thing that you do. You give sadaqah to a poor person, Allah gives you wealth. You treat your parents well, and Allah inspires your children to treat you well. We also said that being good to your parents sets an example to your children, an example of how you expect them to behave, and it's a method of teaching. That just like I treat my parents, I want you to treat your parents like this as well. And so this is from the means, and of course we said it's a good deed, and we mentioned in episode number 3, good deeds have a major role to play in the piety and the upbringing of your children, both the good deeds you do for yourself and the good deeds you do towards others. So that's 3 ways in which being good to your parents can come back and cause your own children to be good to you and cause you to be a more effective and a better Muslim parent. It also gives you something wonderful, and that is it gives you an awareness of what it's like to be a child and what you as a parent expect from your children, because knowing that through what your parents expect of you. And so when you have empathy for the other person's position, it gives you a better sort of understanding and a better means to teach. So if you want to be a really good Muslim parent, then first of all, you need to know what it means to be a very good Muslim child. And when you know what it means to be a good Muslim child, you have much more appreciation of how to instill that in the parent, because you understand what it means to be a good Muslim child. A lot of parents have forgotten. We've forgotten what it's like to be a child. We've forgotten what it's like to want to do something that our parents don't want us to do, and to have to find an Islamic solution to that. And so having a little bit of role reversal allows you to appreciate much more what it's going to take for you to be a good Muslim parent. And it's really from the forms of training that I think among the best ways of training yourself to be a good Muslim parent is to train yourself, first of all, to be a good Muslim child to your parents. Of course, there are practical examples and there are issues we have to deal with. One of the first is a person may say, my parents are not alive. We say, your parents do not have to be alive for you to be a good Muslim child. You can honor your parents after their death by speaking well of them, by honoring their friends. So whoever they honored and they were friendly towards, you honor them by gifts, by inviting them, by being good to them, by inquiring about them. You can honor your parents by making dua for them. You can honor your parents by giving sadaqah on their behalf. You can honor your dead parents by going to Hajj or Umrah for them, and honor them by paying their debts and taking care of their affairs after they've passed away. These are all ways that you can do birrul walidain. Be good to your parents even after they've passed away. And that will lead your children to learn the example of how to be good to you when you pass away. Again, it's the issue of role reversal. Thinking about what it means to be in the other position and thinking, okay, what would I want my children to do for me when I pass away? What would I want my children to do for me? Well, I would want my children to, first of all, take care of my obligations to Allah. Maybe I haven't made Hajj, make Hajj. Or I have debt to somebody, pay the debt off. Or I have an oath that I didn't fulfill my oath. Or a fast I didn't keep my fast. These are all things that I would want them to do. And I would want my children to make dua for me in every prayer. And I would want my children to make dua for me at the times when dua is accepted. And I would want my children to give sadaqah on my behalf. And I would want my children to help to build a masjid on my behalf, sadaqah jariyah, or to go to Hajj on my behalf, or to pay for someone to go to Hajj on my behalf. So just as I would want my children to do for me, I'm going to do this for my parents now, to set my children an example so they know what I expect of them, and also so that I reap the reward of getting back what I have put in. I've put in being good to my parents, so I get back the reward of my children being good to me. There are some limited circumstances in which this becomes difficult, such as when a parent passes away as a non-Muslim. And of course, in this case, you can't do anything for them. But this is the exception rather than the rule. For most of us, we have the opportunity. And as I've said many times, that this episode or this series of episodes is not about every single one of them being applicable in every single circumstance, but about giving you 26 different options to be a better Muslim parent. Maybe 23 of them apply to you and 3 of them don't. Maybe 24 of them apply to you and 2 of them don't. 21 of them apply to you and 5 of them don't. But there's more that applies to you than doesn't. And so you have plenty of opportunity, even if perhaps one of the more difficult circumstances, if someone has non-Muslim parents that have passed away without accepting Islam. So there's very little that you can do in that regard. But in most other circumstances, there are ways to be good to your parents during their life and after they die. And of course, if you have non-Muslim parents, the same applies. While they are still alive, giving them dawah, explaining Islam to them, honoring them, being generous to them, being merciful towards them, not repelling them, not pushing them away. The next point that I wanted to deal with is also to do with thinking about parents as being parents and the wife's parents or the husband's parents, so parents and in-laws. Because a lot of times we might be very good to our parents, but maybe we don't set a very good example when it comes to our in-laws. But at the end of the day, the in-laws are our spouse's parents. And so they too need to be honored and need to be welcomed and not to be repelled and not to say oof to them, and to encourage our spouses to behave towards their parents in the same way. Sometimes we have a bit of a bad culture in the sense that we kind of see it to be on our side, and sometimes even we see that our wife is not allowed to be good to her parents in some cultures, that she doesn't have the right to be good to her parents after she marries. No, her husband should give her the ability as much as he's able without detracting from his right. He must give her also the ability to be good to her parents as well and help her in that. And the wife, she should help her husband to be good to his parents as well. Instead of seeing them as being enemies, the mother-in-law, the problems that happen between them, as seeing it as a means that she needs to help her husband to be good to his parents, so that what? So that her children will experience the same. Because let's just imagine now there is a lady, she has a problem with her mother-in-law. And they fight and they argue and they backbite and they slander one another, and they're always finding means to get to one another. But the thing is that this wife, she has a daughter, and her daughter will one day also marry and have a mother-in-law, and her son will one day also marry and have a mother-in-law. So we want to teach our children the best way of dealing with those mother and father-in-laws. We want to teach our children the best way of doing so that we get al-jaza'u min jins al-amal. We get the reward back of what we put forward for ourselves. So we see our own children behaving with their in-laws in a good way because we behaved with our in-laws in a good way. Now, of course, someone may be watching this and say, well, that's fine, but my in-laws are really terrible and they behave really badly to me and they oppress me. Or even my parents are really bad and they behave really bad to me and they oppress me. Ya ikhwani, one of the most wonderful situations a Muslim can find themselves in is for you to be patiently fulfilling the rights of others, even if those others are not fulfilling your rights. Don't expect other people to fulfill your rights. Don't expect other people to give you the reward that you deserve, or let's say the gratitude that you deserve. Don't expect this, because many times it just doesn't happen. Instead, work for the sake of Allah. When they're bad to you, you're still good to them. There is never an excuse not to do birrul walidain. And I remember sitting with one of the scholars of Islam in a translation I was translating for that scholar, and they were talking about birrul walidain. And people brought the most terrible stories of what their parents do to them or what their in-laws have done to them. And in each case, the Shaykh replied, none of these circumstances excuse you from being good to your parents. None of them excuse you from being good to your parents. Your parents aren't good to you, be good to them. Your in-laws aren't good to you, help your spouse to be good to them regardless. And expect the reward from Allah. Ihtisab. Expect that Allah will reward you. Expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. Expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will complete your rights that you have, even if those other people don't complete those rights. But it's wrong for us to say, if they treat me badly, I treat them badly. That's not our methodology. Our methodology is وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. The slaves of the most merciful who walk on the earth in humility. And when the ignorant people address them, they say words of salam. They say words of peace. Salama. They say words of salam. That is what we want from you. That when people treat you badly, you treat them well. Even if they're not giving you your rights, you give them their rights by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's something that I think is important when it comes to birrul walidain. So in summary, in this episode, we're saying that there are many reasons for you, if you want to be a good Muslim parent, to treat your parents, and indeed, by extension, your spouse's parents, well. And that is so that you get al-jaza'u min jins al-amal, you get the reward back from what you used to do. As you treat others, you will be treated. And also, so that you get the good deeds that will help to instill piety in your children, and you set a good example for your children and other people's children. And inshallah, when your children come to get married, they experience the same good treatment of the spouse's parents that you have set an example for them in. And that's all we have time for in this episode, insha'Allah ta'ala. Please do join me next time, insha'Allah, as we continue to discuss 26 of the many ways that you can be a good Muslim parent and a more effective Muslim parent, insha'Allah ta'ala. And until then, I leave you in the care of Allah Azza wa Jal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.